All right, now, so let's see Matt, now we have other stories now in the African continent. We see the Kenya's economy there grew by about 5.2% in the second quarter of this year. We have Matt Kindiga now, practice leader, Sub-Saharan Africa, join us to bring us up to speed on what's happening. Great to have you, Matt. So what is this latest data? Tell us about the Kenyan economy.
Hi, great to be on the show today. So generally, it's good news. Despite the numerous headwinds that the Kenyan economy is facing, both from a global and a domestic perspective, it's worth remembering that Kenya is experiencing some of the fastest growth in sub-Saharan Africa, and its very strong performance by global standards in particular. There are a few things worth noting in terms of industry performance. Although we have seen a contraction in agriculture, this is a reflection not really of structural problems, but really the drought that's occurring in the country. It's also worth remembering that growth was broad-based across a number of industries in Kenya. In particular, very encouragingly, we saw double-digit growth in services industries and mining, and this shows that the longer-term growth prospects for Kenya are quite positive, because we are seeing tertiary and secondary industries outperforming primary industries, for example. It's worth remembering, though, that the second quarter data doesn't fully reflect the impact of the election on economic activity. We are expecting to see a bit of a dip in the third quarter as we see the effects of negative short-term sentiment in the run-up to the election is reflected in data when it's released. But overall, the Q2 data is very positive and bodes well for the outlook.
Quite interesting, and they still do have that China debt issue. But what effect will the election have on the outlook for the growth in Kenya?
Yes, I mean, you touched on debt, so this is related to fiscal policy. So from our perspective, the election will have an effect on, or an impact on, the economy from two perspectives. One is fiscal policy, the other is sentiment. So from a fiscal policy perspective, unfortunately, Kenya's public finances are not in great shape. So we expect the government, Mr. Ruto's government, to progressively introduce more austerity measures, so tax increases, spending cuts. We've seen the removal of fuel subsidies recently, which is a good example. So this will weigh on growth somewhat. We are expecting public sector demand to soften. But from a private sector perspective, the election, because it was such a peaceful and calm transition of power to William Ruto, we're going to see a very significant boost to private sector sentiment. Lots of pent-up demand for goods and services, more investment made by the private sector now that investors have confidence in the political stability of the country. So overall, over the longer term, on balance, quite positive, although there are some risks to public finances for sure.
Exactly, and we have the IMF giving all those forecasts for 2023. Thank you so much, Matt Kindiga, practice leader, Sub-Saharan Africa, Frontier Views.
My pleasure.